There you go. Can you see it? Go.
Okay.
Hold on. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Nikki. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, yeah. Likewise. I'm going to turn this down. Um, how is your Sunshine State in Florida?
Doing
How
great.
is it going?
Doing just great. As usually it is in Florida in the summertime, we get a lot of sun and a lot of rain on any given day. So we had a dry spell for a while, and then in the past week, we're kind of back to normal. So we're getting a lot of rain, but we also get a lot of sunshine too. So it's good.
That's why it's called Sunshine State, right?
That's
That's right. Good to see you, by the way. And I really want to thank you for just, coming on to the show and everything like that. This is, as you already know, I have a podcast. I know it changes name because it wants to associate what the topic it's, the topics that we provide and present and everything like that. But this is specifically for Leadership365. And I want to, selected, a few significant leaders that I feel personally that would bring the relevant discussions and thoughts based on their own hands-on experiences and journeys. And I think that speaks loud than just picking anybody else, just anyone concerned, right? But I want to but what do you think so far? I mean, I did put together pre-made questions and all of this. How did you feel about that before we even began the show?
100%. Yeah, I'm fine with all of that. As I think you might remember from our previous meetings, I'm pretty easygoing. I can talk to anybody about anything, and this is a topic where we could be on for 3 hours and we would not even begin to touch just the initial important elements of leadership and especially integrity. I'm completely fine with that. I want to make sure. I'm sorry I logged in a couple minutes late. The link to the platform, it just took me through some extra questions that I wasn't prepared for. So I'm sorry I came late.
Yeah, no worries about it, Joseph. You're the second person actually had informed me that they had some pre-questions before you even enter the studio, the virtual studio. That's interesting. I'm going to try to follow up on those things, but they're okay, right? As far as
it was fine. It was completely fine. It almost, I've used Restream before, but it almost seems like every time I use it, it's just a little bit different. Maybe the platform is evolving, and every time it updates, I don't know, but it was just fine. It just took me a couple of extra minutes. That's all.
I think all of these apps, it really is designed for all of it. I mean, for them too, it's a win-win strategy for them, right? The business model is always evolving. The business model is always like, trying to get your feedback, our feedback as users and they try to update it and evolve and everything like that. But great. I'm glad that you're here, and good morning. So do you want to start now?
Sure. Just let me make sure, as far as the time goes, I have programmed until 45 minutes after. Is that still the plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we can condense it, and we can compact this into a very full, impactful episode for this podcast. I just want to let you guys know. Good morning, guys. Kamusta bu? Selamat pagi. Of course, I have to say that. I'm Indonesian, right? Kamusta usted? Goal of this episode is to share and inspire other leaders and audience listeners such as yourself, and spark insightful discussions and provide valuable insights for all of you, our loyal listeners. And it is Leadership365. This is our podcast designed to inspire growth and impact for, I want to insert this, sustainability, because we're all for that right now, right? I mean, has been, and I want to just focus on that, sustainable living, sustainable leadership as well. So you can create your best year of 365 days ever. That's why we call it Leadership365, by the way. So good to be here in the presence of you and many of you around the world. I just want to share this quote. Before I forget, I'm going to turn this down a little bit here, the background music. I come out with this quote, when I was waiting, and I think it just fits in with the purpose and the topic that we have here today. Integrity isn't just a trait. It's the cornerstone of leadership that builds trust and transforms teams. All right, guys, that's a great quote. And welcome back. I want to welcome you all. Welcome back to Leadership 365. Those of you who have been following us, the podcast where we dive deep into the essence of leadership and how we inspire change. I'm your host, Nicky Dare, one and only. And today we have a very, very special guest with us, all the way from, like I said, the Sunshine State, and often called, believe it or not, I checked this out, Citrus Capital. I didn't even know about that. So it's Citrus Capital, Florida, a very good friend, distinguished leader with a wealth of experience in national security and global operations, Mr. Joseph Polanin. Joseph, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Nicky, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and always a pleasure to speak with you and learn from you and participate. Thank you so much.
Before we move on, before we start, Joseph, I just have to do this because the listeners always want to know, who am I speaking with? Who's the guest speaker? Who is this? Well, in case you don't know him, and I know many of you on LinkedIn already know him, you have quite a following as well. Yep. He's an award-winning CEO, combat veteran, and a #1 best-selling author. I know you had just submitted this, so I want to be very precise about your bio. And he's a best-selling author leading elite global enterprises to succeed on complex missions and high risk. Hold on, let me pull this out real quick. So Joe Polanin is an award-winning CEO, combat veteran, and a #1 best-selling author, leading elite global enterprises to succeed on complex missions in high-risk, high-threat operational environments, despite all obstacles. He served 30 years, you guys, 3 decades, in the U.S. Navy Special Operations Forces, including 20-plus years of successful command leadership responsibilities, CEO, COO. In 2020, Joe and his daughters founded the Alakai, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Alakai Leadership Group, which provides customized senior executive leadership, consulting, and fractional C-suite support, CEO, COO, CSO, alongside inspirational speaking for expanding and transitioning middle market companies in any industry or sector. Quite accolades there. And many more, by the way, guys. If you check him out on LinkedIn, it's incredible. That's why I want to talk to you about your incredible journeys here, Joseph. Joseph, your leadership journey is nothing short of remarkable. Thank you so much again. I want to just say thank you, and then the listeners also probably grateful to wanted to listen to your journeys. Remarkable, nothing short of remarkable. You've advised the President of the United States, even led global teams and managed enormous budgets. Let's start with the fundamental questions. I have this question. What do you believe is the core principle of effective leadership? I mean, we all always talk about leadership, and it's all over the LinkedIn, right? We talk about this all the time. But with you, what is what is that you believe in the core fundamental principle of effective leadership?
Yeah, Nicky, thank you very much for asking, and thank you for that very kind and gracious introduction. I have always believed that the core and the essence of leadership is about learning. Right? Leadership is not a position, it's not a title, it's not a rank, it's not an office, it's not something that one is appointed to or elected to. Leadership at its core is a process of learning, growing, expanding, caring for people. And if one is curious and one has a thirst for knowledge, and then has the ability to impart that knowledge to others, especially in helping individuals and teams grow and evolve. I'm a big believer that great leaders, as they learn and they grow and they evolve, their primary purpose is to develop new leaders I'm often reminded of a lesson I learned very early in my professional career. Imagine the best leader that you ever knew. In whatever industry, whatever sector, whatever profession you're thinking about, who is someone, and who's that person that you admire, that you respect, and that you say, that's the best leader that I've ever known. Now, set forth on a mission to develop new leaders to become better than that leader. That's how we move forward. That's how we evolve. That's how the leaders of tomorrow are going to be shaped today. And so for me, at its core, leadership is all about learning and growing and developing the next generation of leaders to be better than the best we ever knew.
I like that. Absolutely. I think, this is one of the things that I have learned about just putting it out there. Leaders don't follow. We create leaders, other leaders. I think that's the main component of all what you just said, right? And then we pick one or two. I have quite a few, but absolutely, this is great. You've led team as large as 412,000 people with a 518 billion annual budget. Is that correct?
True.
Right. It's on your bio here that I was reading. How do you maintain a sense of integrity and cohesion in such large and vast operations?
Well, we hear this very often, but and I don't want to understate or oversimplify, but it's about communication.
Yes, absolutely.
And communication has two very important parts: speaking or writing or conveying one's intent and one's thoughts. Mm-hmm. And the other part, which I believe is much more important, listening and understanding. Right? This is an evolution that leaders go through. There's a time when we work earnestly to prepare clear and concise communication, whether it's written, whether it's spoken, to make sure that there's no doubt in anyone's mind as to what they're trying to convey. Right? Mm-hmm. That's terrific, but that only works if we are listening. Mm. And when we are listening, are we listening to prepare a response, or are we listening to truly understand the other person? So whether, and this is not about position, this is not about rank or structure, it could be a team of 2, it could be a team of 200,000. If the communication is clear and people can read it, or they can hear it, and they can absorb it, and they can understand it, and then they can say, okay, I get that. Mm-hmm. Do you understand why the person, what was the intent? Do you understand why the leader was communicating in that manner? Do you understand how and why what you need to do is so important? If you do, great. If you don't, stop and ask a question. And the other element of communication that I mentioned earlier that I believe is infinitely more important is listening. Listening with the sole purpose of understanding what the other person is saying, understanding why they're saying it, and having that comprehension to then translate that forward and saying, okay, I understand what they meant, I understand why they meant it, and I understand how and why what I'm doing contributes to the mission, or contributes to the goal, or contributes to the team. When a team has that understanding, they will move mountains, even in the absence of additional communication. Because why? Because they understand the intent, they understand the goal. So I know teams of 3 people that go to the same office every day, that sit right next to each other, that don't communicate and don't listen well, and therefore they have a challenge with getting the job done. And I know distributed teams that work in 10 different countries with 20,000 people that are very synchronized, very integrated, very aligned, and very harmonious, and are moving forward with unity of effort. And the difference is listening and communicating well.
And I want to jump in really quick here too, because you mentioned about different countries and everything. I think there's also an array of different cultures, variety of cultures, and variety of different languages, and perhaps the way of doing business as well. Because I've had experiences hands-on, believe it or not, both in the other end of the, around the world, basically Southeast Asia and also European countries, where it's very variety, it's very culturally, and different languages, and the way they do business is quite different. In Southeast Asia, for example, the Chinese, right, the Indonesian, right, Australian, we have dealt business with, and Malaysia, Singaporean, just to name a few. And then when I flew out to European countries, the UK, Scotland, Scottish, those are some of the ones that I touched base on. But what are your thoughts about that? The cultural differences in the foreign languages that we have to adapt in the way they think, the way they do business, even on a daily basis. Okay, we want to touch also on the faith and the religion, because in Muslims, on Fridays they have to cut the hours by half because they have to do the Friday prayers, for example, and some holidays and everything. So there's a whole lot of conversations behind that, I think. What do you think?
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I am a fan of what I learned and what I practice today. I refer to it as the C3 principle: caring, communication, and courtesy. When a leader cares about their people, they care about the mission, they care about the team, they want to communicate with and learn from and listen to and understand others, and whatever frame of reference, society, culture, country they're coming from, and they do so with courtesy. It's like a triangle, and it pivots, and if you take one side off, it kind of falls apart. The C3 principle, they go together: caring, courtesy, and communication. I will share with you that having that awareness and having that understanding is incredibly important, especially when working in, say, for example, a country that is different from where we grew up, or a societal or cultural difference that we have. You know what? These are differences to be appreciated and to be valued. And when you have members on a team, let's say, for example, from 6 or 7 different societal backgrounds, 6 or 7 different countries, that diversity
is rich.
A unique strength for that team. Exactly right. It's a very unique strength. Absolutely. It's a very unique strength for that team. And I have found, I've lived and operated in over 75 countries around the world, and I have always found great value in listening, learning, but then interacting with team members from other societies, other cultures, other countries in a way that they would prefer, not in a way that I would prefer. Well, what does that take? If it's me, what I have to do is I have to get to know that person. I have to build a relationship. I have to understand. I have to learn. I have to listen and be respectful of how they do things differently, and then incorporate that into our team. And I truly believe that's the way to go. There's a story or an article that I'm reminded of from a number of years ago. The author is Tony Alessandro, and it's called The Platinum Rule. Everyone knows the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The platinum rule takes it a step further and says interact with others in a way that they would prefer that you interact with them, not in the way that we would prefer. And that totally shifts the dynamic and says the leader, the teammate, the team member is willing and interested and motivated in listening and understanding and getting to know someone, and then operating within their contextual set of how they operate, as opposed to, oh, okay, here's what I know, and here's how we're gonna run the team.
I think you touch on that, and I was listening to you, and then I'm glad you point that out. Is the essence of owning the ownership. I think a lot of the employee, staff, and then team members that we work on a special projects, for example, it's not just about leading them and then managing them and then telling them what to do, but also, like you said, interaction and, all of this courtesy and things, right? Where everybody's participating, everybody's giving feedback, and then assigning them with some kind of ownership of the project itself. I think a sense of community, a belonging. I think that's the point that I'm trying to, bold out here. What do you think about that?
I absolutely agree. There's a word I would use to describe that, and it's called accountability. Sometimes people hear the word accountability and they immediately think,
yes.
Well, sometimes people hear it, they immediately think something negative. Oh, accountability.
Yeah,
someone didn't do something they were supposed to do, they're going to get in trouble.
No.
I don't think of it that way at all. I think of it as teamwork and influence and integration and synchronization. So here's my, as a member of the team, here's my portion of the task. I know what I have to do. I know why I have to do it. I know why it's important. I know how it contributes to the end goal. And oh, by the way, here's when it's due. And here's what I'm accountable for. And I'm working real hard with my team and I'm making it happen. And at some point, I reach a point where I say, okay, task complete. Great, wonderful, on to the next task. But maybe I come to an obstacle, or maybe I come to a challenge, or maybe I can't get it done. And I don't have any fear and I don't have any hesitation. And I raise my hand and I say, teammates, I need a hand. I don't understand this. I need some additional resources. I need some additional time. Can someone help me? And I know there have been hundreds of times, if not thousands, where that was me. And I said, I need a hand. And wonderful people who were smarter and better than me reached down and helped me out. And then there are other times when people came to me and said, Joe, I need a hand. And I was able to do that. That's accountability. That's teamwork. That's leadership.
There's a trust already built in there in the environment that you have created along with your team members, and that takes away, remove all of this doubts, fear, all of those lineups, right? The usual lineup suspects of the things that crumble the team spirit and efforts, right? In this kind of environment. So trust, building the teams in a trust environment, and remove also the word that I'm trying to integrate here. It's micromanaging. So that's sort of like a toxic, right? So let them be, be creative. Be the word that you used earlier, Joseph, is curiosity. I think it's all about that too as well. If you want to be creative, and then I think it's all about that now, moving forward in the future, because look at what's surrounded us right now. I mean, all just beautiful evolution of humanity, right? Thinking about space, thinking about, how to travel outside the planet Earth. And we've already been discovering that, back decades ago, centuries ago, but, more so now, the curious, the humanity. But okay, I don't want to go further on that, but just stick around in here, coming back again to the team environment, trust and leadership and things like that. I think it's just spot on what you just said.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. There's a lot to unpack there, and it's
yes.
You mentioned about trust, and I'll just say this: that great teams, the best teams that I've had the privilege to serve with, each team member, and make no mistake, the leader is also a team member.
Yes.
The leader's not someone who jumps out and says, "Here's what you're going to do," and then leaves. The leader's there and involved and rolling up their sleeves and making things happen right there. Absolutely. Along with the team. I liken it back to the team piece. Trust happens when that team can build and share mutual respect. And there's a feeling that team members know that I have their back no matter what. I know they have my back no matter what. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all human. We're all going to have problems. We're all going to be successful in certain elements. We're all going to need help in certain elements. But trust occurs when that respect transitions into a loyalty and a knowledge that no matter what happens, that person's there.
Yeah.
And when that happens on a team that shares trust really can accomplish anything, because there isn't any task or any mission that they could be assigned that they're not going to have an attitude and a mindset that, okay, this seems difficult, but we have two options here. We're going to find a way, or we're going to make our own way to solve that problem or to overcome that obstacle. I've seen that happen on many wonderful teams, and it's when it occurs, it's an absolutely beautiful thing to see.
I love it. It's spot on this. It's all about clear communication. Just rewinding back to what you said, and leading by example, for sure. But you're leading by example. You're going to be out there yourself and then showing, leading by example. When you're responsible for large teams, setting a standard of that integrity yourself is very crucial. People watch their leaders closely. I know this hands-on, when I'm doing all of my my nonprofit causes out there in the communities. And if they see you acting with integrity, they are more likely to follow that. And it's led by example. Communication ensures that everybody is on the same page and understands the mission, the assignment, I call it, right? And knows their role in achieving it. So, okay, great. Very powerful, Joseph. I'm really, really, really just enjoying all of these things. Another aspect of your leadership that I know that is your ability to inspire and to motivate, for sure. I can hear it, from your voice and your energy. What strategies do you use to keep your team engaged and also motivated, especially in the high pressure or stressful environments?
Yeah, it to me, it boils down to three really important intangibles. Number one is the vision. Where does the team want to go? Where does the team need to go? It could be a turbulent time. It could be a tough situation. It could be a crisis or adversity. But there's an element of very, very clearly and very consistently and very steadily helping the team to navigate by reminding them, this is the vision, this is the goal, this is the objective, this is where we're going. In a way that is not repetitive or is not redundant, but in a way that motivates them, in a way that relates to them. I again go back to getting to know people. And a leader cannot hope to lead a team, whether it's in good times or bad, or in a calmness or in crisis, without knowing their people. Take time to get to know all of your people and understand how they perceive, how they interact, how they process information. Sometimes the most important thing that a leader can do is just to listen. And if people are having an especially tough day, let them blow off some steam. And then when that's done, have a very calm conversation with them. Again, reorienting them and reminding them of the importance of the vision. That's number one. Number two is calmness. I touched on it earlier. It is extremely important for leaders to remain calm. I had a wonderful leader that I worked with many years ago, and he used to say to me all the time, you can have a bad day, just don't do it at work.
I like that.
And what it does is it gives teams and it gives individuals who may also be having a bad day, or who may also be stressed out, or may also be concerned about the chaotic or the crisis or turbulent situation that they're in. They could be facing some adversity. It could be a problem in any respect. If the leader is able to show everyone that they can remain calm no matter what that storm is that's raging around them, there's a certainty and there's a conviction, and okay, things seem pretty bad right now, but the best leaders that I have known in the worst situations were the people that could remain calm. I've never known anyone that's been able to solve a problem, especially a complex problem, with a team when they are anxious, agitated, angry, emotional, upset. You have to remain calm, and that galvanizes and inspires the team. And the third element really is what I refer to as commitment or dedication. It's reminding the team that, yes, we have the vision, here's the goal.
Yeah.
We're going to remain calm, and therefore, here are the action steps that we need to take. Remember, we had this plan of action. Okay, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. And sometimes it's the simplest of things that will remind people, hey, the project that you're working on, I know it seems a little chaotic right now. There's a checklist for that. Have you used the checklist lately? Have you gone to see what your standard procedures are for this situation? And a lot of times that deliberateness and that conviction and let's follow our steps together is a reassurance for the team, especially during tough times.
Yeah. I think it's spot on again on this. Motivation comes from a shared vision, especially in a vast, that size of team environment. Always ensuring to understand the bigger picture. At the same time, why their work matters. Recognizing also their efforts and celebrate their successes. Reminding them it's okay to make mistakes, and then it's fixable. Providing continuous feedback. I want to touch on that. The continuous feedback are very key in such high pressure environment, stressful environment. I think. At the same time, it's also crucial to stay calm and also stay focused. Like I said, right, we help the team to do the same. Speaking of high pressure environment, I know that you have dealt with some of the most challenging scenarios, including implementing UN Security Council resolutions against North Korea. I think I was reading that. How do you approach such complex and high stakes situations, Joseph?
Well, in those cases, Nicky, whether it is a very, very complex international global initiative or whether it's a team that's local or regional, I think the same principles apply, and that is finding 2 or 3, no more, finding 2 or 3 very powerful priorities that everyone can agree on, and then saying, okay, these are our top priorities, right? Prioritization is the key. In the case of the example that you mentioned, we didn't have 10 priorities, we didn't have 5, no, we had 2. And many countries and many organizations, they could get behind that, and they could say, okay, yes, these are the objectives, these are the goals, these are the priorities. And so when we got together, we didn't talk about 16 other things. We focused on those 2 things, and then all of our actions and all of our activity and all of our efforts were aligned to that. Why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing it in accordance to, in order to achieve these 2 objectives. Okay, therefore, what are we doing, and how is this activity specifically helping us today to achieve that objective tomorrow? And what we would find was if an activity didn't support that objective, then we would try it for a while and see how it went. But we were fine with letting that go and trying something else, and only doing those actions or those activities that contributed to the purpose. We have a phrase, task and purpose. You don't just do something just to do it. You do it because it's intentional. You do it because it's aligned to your purpose, and you do it because it's going to support your objective. If it doesn't, then why are you doing it? And what I have found from working with wonderful teams like that one and others through the years, that if you have a task and it doesn't have a purpose, don't do it.
Don't come in. Just like a meeting, if there is a purpose in the meeting, what's the goal of this meeting if you can just send it through email, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's like, why have 30 minutes or an hour meeting that you can read an email for like 3 minutes, not even 5.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, I think approaching complex situations requires a balance through this thorough planning and also the word adaptability. You just need a clear strategy and priorities, like you say, but also the flexibility to adjust as the situation circumstances evolve, involving this diverse team of experts, and also encouraging them to have an open, dialogue, not a monologue, can bring multiple perspectives, right? And thinking thoughts and I think innovative solutions to the table, right? It's also about staying resilient. I think that's a key big word these days, resilient, and keeping the team morale high despite these obstacles or challenges. All right, so resilience is indeed critical. It's a key word we use now very loosely. You have successfully managed several global corporate transformations and mergers. What advice would you give to other leaders facing similar large-scale changes?
Yes, Nikki, there's a lot of advice that I would give, but the things that stand out to me as the most important is that understand that leading a transformation and managing that transformation are two very different things. There needs to be a group of people who are the change leaders. These are the people who are the best at communicating the vision, interacting with others and explaining it to them in a way that they understand it, and helping to not just explain it internally to the team, but externally with stakeholders and partners. So there's an element of conviction, communication, leadership, and then conveying that over time consistently. That's leading the change. Why are we doing it? Being clear about it, explaining it to people, and again, using that C3 principle, caring, courtesy, communication. But then there's what I refer to as change management, which is very often the gritty or unglamorous, tedious work of rolling up your sleeves and actually making those changes happen. What are the processes? What are the standards? What are the new policies? What are the new organizational structures? What are the new elements that are required across the enterprise to make that change not only successful today, but more importantly, to make it stick in the organization's culture? If you're talking about a global enterprise going through a transformation at scale, there's a good chance that if they're going to make that change, they've spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of resources, as well as logistics and infrastructure, and most importantly, people. Talented people have been focused on this to make it happen. If you're going through all that and you're going to do all that, like, there's a great chance you want it to stick in your organization's culture and you want it to be around for a while. One of the most pivotal transformations that I was involved in, this was about 6 years ago. We were done with the initial phase of the transformation, and my boss came to me and he said, "Wow, this is fantastic. I love every part of it. How do we make it stick in our culture so that 2, 3, 4, 10 years from now, it's not, well, this was Joe's idea and this was Nikki's idea, and now we're going to go back to the way we've always done it. How do we make this the way we've always done it? How do we make this stick in our culture?" And we came up with a surefire way to do that had to do with hiring the right people, educating them, training them, and then putting them in the right place at the right time, as opposed to, okay, here's this job description, we're bringing someone in and this is what they're going to do. Okay, you could do that, but don't be surprised if 4 or 5 years later, you have a problem and the changes that you've made or the transformation you've made doesn't stick in your culture. So bit of a story there to convey that there's an element of change leadership and the inspiration and the communication and the conviction that galvanizes the team and moves them forward. But then there's the hard work of change management and actually implementing it and then making it stick in your culture.
Yeah, I totally agree. Change can be unsettling, but with transparency, I think that's also a key ingredient in the mix, and support from the upper level, upper linear, you can turn into this opportunity for them to grow and also to improve, not just for the talented people that they have hired. You talk about the stick, how is it? And because that's what they're looking for, right? It's like, am I going to stay around here at the company 10 years from now, 20 years from now? But there's always, they're looking into opportunities, learning more and growing and improving more. I think that's also play in the mix, and communicating the vision and the benefits of that transformation clearly to them as well. Involve them in the process, and then the ownership of that, right? Of the assignment, of the task that they're given to. Listen to their concerns, getting the feedbacks and address them and everything like that. Excellent advice. I like that. I really like that, what you said. The stick, is this going to stick? Yeah, I think it's reality. It's reality.
Well, you said it too, and I'll wrap up with this point, and then I'll turn it back over to you. You talked about the importance of feedback. I've been involved in several successful, lasting global enterprise transformations. I've never been involved in one that was successful that didn't have a vibrant feedback loop where people could come up and say, okay, we're 6 weeks into this thing. Here's what's working well. Here's what's not working well. Here's what we need to do more of. Here's what we need to do less of. Here's what we need to think about improving. And here's what we need to think about discarding. We're not saying leave the highway. We're saying adjust the course a little bit on the path to make sure that we're there. With that feedback mechanism, it's not someone else's vision or someone else's priority. It's our priority. It's our vision. It's a shared vision.
Yep.
And the best transformations start with, this is our shared vision. It's not yours. It's not mine. It's not someone else's. It's ours. You mentioned it earlier, a sense of ownership. Having that ownership and saying, this is ours. We're going to do it together. That's a lot different than someone saying, hey, we're going to reorganize, or we're going to change, or we're going to transform. When it's we and ours, it's quite powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no denying about that. I completely agree. Excellent advice, by the way. I want to move forward a little bit here, talk about innovation. You have encouraged creativity and innovation in your teams. How can leaders foster an environment where innovation thriving?
Yeah, I have always believed and implemented that the best way to do that is to not only empower, but to educate and delegate.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to say to people, okay, you're empowered. What's that mean, actually? It's another thing to then educate and say, okay, here are the standards. Here's what great performance looks like. Here's what the expectations are. And then give people the tools, the resources, the time, the teamwork, the support that they need to do that. All right? That's all wonderful. But if you do all that and you don't delegate, you're missing something very important. And this is the third element of why I think this is so important. Delegation is not abdication. It's not saying, okay, do this and then now I'm going to leave. Delegation is you're going to take the time to explain to someone This is what the standards are. These are what the expectations are. This is what right looks like. This is what excellent looks like. Then you give them the resources and the tools. Then you give them the empowerment. You give them, and then you say to them, therefore, here's the authority that you have. Here are the decisions you can make. Here is what you own. And here are the times when I need you to take a pause and come back to me and say, I have a question, I need your help. Or here are the decisions that need to come back to me. I have found the empowerment, the education, and the delegation, when combined, is the key. And those are the ingredients that have to work together and have to function in harmony. When that delegation happens, when you're a leader, you're going to know you're getting it right if it starts to feel a little uncomfortable. Like, have I delegated too much? Have I given away too much authority? What about if they make a mistake? It's almost like teaching your child to ride a bicycle, and at some point the training wheels come off, and you have to
let it go.
Ride.
Let it go. Let it ride.
Right? And it's a beautiful thing. And the way that great leaders push through that feeling is they actually empower and educate and delegate more, not less. So it's you mentioned micromanagement earlier. It's almost like the opposite of micromanagement. If you just do the opposite of micromanagement, that's what it is.
It's almost like parenting, you know. I mean, I believe as a parent that, you know, let your kids make mistakes. It's okay. You know, that's how they learn. That's how they grow. If they are still in a complacent space all the time, circumstances, they will not learn. They will not know what's what out there. So let them grow. That's by doing that, by just going to. So leaders need to create a safe space for experimentation, for all of these things, beautiful things that create, right? Encourage the team to think outside the box. I think that's important as well. And not fear failure in making mistakes. Obviously, there's a measured mistakes. I should say that, right? And it's what's the right word for here? You can help me, Joseph. It's a measured or can be fixable. Basically, recognize and reward innovative ideas. I think that's important. Celebrate the successes, and provide the resources and support that they need to bring those ideas to life. Basically, to make it happen, implement them. It's also important to always lead by example. Showing the team that you value and pursue the innovation yourself. I think that's important. Spot on again, as always. My next question here is that creating a culture of innovation is very vital. You've lived in over 75 countries, as you mentioned, right? Gaining this understanding of diverse culture. Yeah, I know that we touched on already a little bit on this. How does a culture awareness impact leadership? Your take on this?
Yeah, it's deeper than awareness. It's respect and understanding. And so I think one can be aware, but how does the leader translate that awareness into understanding? I believe the bridge to that is respect. You've got to be interested. You got to be curious. You've got to want to learn about that other culture, that other environment, that other society, that other country. And then when you do that, in having a respect for those that you are working with, it facilitates understanding. And absolutely. When leaders on a team achieve that, it truly is a remarkable thing. For me, that's what it's always been about. It's about building relationships with people, regardless of where they're from, background, society, country, nationality, race, religion. You build meaningful relationships with people that are built upon mutual respect and build trust. When you do that, you will have not only awareness, but you'll have respect, and you'll build that bridge to understanding.
Absolutely, I can agree more. I think we said this already. We agree on this, that leaders don't create followers. Leaders create other leaders, basically.
That's right.
Here's a quote that I want to share with you. True leaders don't just manage operations; they inspire innovation. and drive change through unwavering principles. Okay, one last question here for you, Joseph. What advice do you have for leaders navigating the uncertainty and driving organizational success in today's climate, in today's dynamic environment, in such dynamic, I want to call it?
Yeah. So, Nicky, it really boils down to this. Demonstrate and live your core values every day.
Yeah.
Don't deviate from that.
Yeah.
Be who you are. Do what you know is the right thing to do. And your authenticity and your genuineness will come through. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to adapt to situations that maybe are a counter to your core values. Stick to your core values and demonstrate them every day. It's been said that how we demonstrate our core values and the actions that we actually take every day, that's what creates our destiny. That's what creates our future. It's not that there's this unknown element out there that's helping to create our future. No. As leaders, especially in tough times, in tough circumstances like you were describing, it's the little things that we do every day, the decisions and the actions that we make every day that are aligned with our core values. What we stand for as leaders matters, and when we align our actions that way intentionally, it brings almost an air of simplicity to even the most complex situations, and people can galvanize around that, and they can understand, okay, here's why we're doing what we're doing.
I think this podcast title is so perfect for what you just said, to wrap it all up, the power of integrity. Surely, leadership is a continuous journey of that learning and growth and staying true to your values. Like you said, be adaptable, resilient, and always prioritize the well-being of yourself, also, and your team, especially. By doing so, you'll not only achieve the great things, but also make a lasting positive impact. Couldn't agree more. And so, very last, thank you so much for sharing your invaluable insights on this. Your experience and wisdom are very truly inspiring. I'm just so grateful that I was able to get you here on our podcast. But before we wrap up, any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our listeners here?
I would say two things. Number one, always do your best. And number two, don't quit. And when you resolve not to quit, especially for those entrepreneurs out there, it doesn't mean that you can't pivot, and it doesn't mean that you can't evolve. You should evolve. You should pivot. You should adapt. You should change. But when you have something that you're passionate about, do your best and don't quit. And when you resolve not to quit, reach out and grab your teammate and make sure they're okay and make sure they're there with you. And you're going to see great things happen.
Wise words to end on. I really appreciate you. Thank you once again, Joseph, for joining us here. Leadership365. It's all about that power of integrity, what we're talking about here, and your team. Thank you to our listeners also for tuning on. Those of you who are listening in right now, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with your network. And as always, my final thoughts here. Just one quick second here. Leadership is not about making a difference, not just taking a charge. Leadership is a journey, a continuous journey, not a destination. Stay committed to your growth. Don't ever quit. Like Joseph was saying, don't quit. Whatever it is, keep going. You'll be amazed at the heights of that you can reach. Remember, great leaders don't set out to be leaders. They set out to make a difference. It's never about the role, always about the goal. I think that's about right there. Always about the goal. The goal. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with your network. Until next time, stay inspired, all of you, and keep leading with purpose. This is Nicky Dare signing off. Dare to live, love, lead fearlessly. And here's to your purpose and passion. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic week, everyone. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. All right. So we'll see you soon, and hopefully you'll be back again.
Definitely. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day and a fantastic week.
All right. Thanks.